everybody. We have people on the two sides of the Atlantic Ocean and on other sides of other oceans today, for sure. But it's absolutely wonderful to be here with you and with Mark Phillips. Welcome, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Lewis. How are you? It's good to see you.
It's good. It's on this side of the Atlantic in Pennsylvania. The weather is starting to get better, but it's been a tough year. So
We've
um,
had a we've had a sunny day. I've even been in the garden. So London, it's not been too bad.
oh my goodness. Isn't this amazing? We're here on LinkedIn. We connected just because we shared philosophies. We went back and forth with ideas on fundraising. And we were privileged to have you join a conference that our little fundraising community put together. So thank you, Mark. And now we're going to chat a little bit more today.
Fabulous.
So
Yeah,
that,
that's good. I've been glad to meet up on LinkedIn. One of the joys of social media. So yeah, let's crack on.
Awesome. And first things first, if you're listening in, please do chat in where you're listening in from. Feel free to use those reaction buttons. There's not a negative one. So if you don't like something, just chat it in and just say you don't agree with that. But otherwise, we look forward to hearing from you. We want this to be a two-way, three-way conversation with you. So it's not just us blabbing up here. But Mark, I'll just get started right away. Please introduce yourself, and then we'll go into how you and your firm generate ideas, which was a really fascinating insight you shared during the conference.
Yep, my name's Mark Phillips. I've been involved in fundraising, I think, since the very late 1980s. Started out in a charity called ActionAid. Worked there for a few years before going on to the YMCA. So I worked at what was the National Council of YMCAs, now YMCA England. Did that for about 8 years before moving and setting up Blue Frog in
Wow.
1997. So it's 25 years, our silver jubilee or silver anniversary
So
this
you
year.
caught the entire internet revolution. What other revolutions did you catch in that
Oh,
period?
we've been through every single crisis. We've been through, obviously, the financial crisis. Everyone's been through the COVID crisis. We've through various, particularly in the UK, charity scandals that we've run through. Legacies, we were very big on legacies from very early day. Lots of mid-level experience. I think we were the first agency in the UK to make DM work for alumni fundraising for universities, and we've had some dramatic successes. We've even been written about in the New York Times for some of our creative
Wow.
executions for some of our fundraising work. So yeah, lots of stuff. But throughout it all, we've really been underpinned by a huge amount of market research. We're constantly speaking with donors. We've just finished a big study in Australia looking at the impact of COVID, plus the economic downturn, plus the Ukraine crisis on giving. But we constantly speak to donors about from different strata, whether it's mid-value, whether it's legacies, whether it's cash giving, monthly giving, alumni giving to different causes. Constantly do that, and that feeds into our work and helps us develop creative work and strategies that seem to be doing very well, particularly at the moment.
Awesome. Mark, you mentioned mid-level, mid-value work. For those who are on this side of the pond, could you just explain a little bit more about what you're referring to?
Yeah, we've actually done a couple of studies, mid-value studies in the US and in Canada, actually. So I've got a fair amount of insight. But these are people who give large, normally cash gifts to charities. So we would be looking, if we're looking at US, maybe anything from $500 minimum up to about $10,000. But predominantly through relationships that are managed via direct mail. So, appeal
Wow.
packs. Yeah. And we've done very successful. We've actually worked for one very large international bank, UBS bank.
Okay.
And We work amongst their millionaire and billionaire clients, and that happens through DM. And so some of our most successful work we've done for them has been with asks starting at £20,000. So that would be $30,000 as an initial ask, but works very well. Works, they're very very successful.
That's
as
so
approaches.
interesting, Mark. And one of the things that I've been thinking about and reflecting on recently is how for-profit businesses, to me, from an outsider perspective, they're starting to look more and more like nonprofits, and they're using tactics, it seems like, from the nonprofit playbook.
Oh, absolutely. There was so much. I don't know what it was like in the US, but on TV in the UK, immediately COVID hit, there were so many ads, and it was all about social purpose. What are we doing? And that happens now. It's almost normal, but it doesn't necessarily have a massive impact on the people who really care about the cause, because they see, all right, that's nice to do, but you're not going to bring about change by buying, the right brand of washing up powder or something. What people still want to do is fund the work they care about.
Absolutely. That's a great insight. You mentioned another thing, Mark, which was having gone through a number of charity, maybe even government crises. And another of the trends that we talk about in the Donor Participation Project is the decline in trust. So how people tend to trust charities less and less. Have you seen this from your perspective?
Yeah, it's probably, it goes up and down a little. One of the things that we do is there's the Edelman. Is it the Edelman Trust Monitor?
Yep, barometer.
So we keep an eye on the Edelman Trust Monitor, and obviously there's been lots of upward and downwards, particularly in terms of government, charities, media, and such like. But yes, there's been a lot of negative stories in the UK about trust, charities not necessarily behaving in the right way, and it does suppress giving. The way that we approach our DM is really try to be as absolutely upfront and straight as we can. We don't like to do anything too tricksy. We don't like to trick people into giving. We don't like to manipulate people. It's very straight, our work. It's like, this is what we need. This is what we'll do with your money. And then once we've actually, we've got that gift, we show people how to use it. But there tends to be a core, it's a very small group. In the UK, there's something like about, I can't remember what it is, about 1.7 million people give almost 40%, 45% of all money to charity. So it's a very small core group that we're really over-reliant on. And I think it's similar in the US. I remember being at a conference, AFP, a couple of years ago, and somebody showing some stats, and the amount of giving which was undertaken by the top 1% of the population was huge, absolutely massive. So our focus is really on being straight, telling people, exactly what we're doing with the money, treating them with respect, and then once we've got a gift, thanking and showing them how that money has really made a difference.
That's so interesting, and I find that stewardship, or almost, I mean, I hesitate to use the word stewardship because it sometimes comes across as just being, very thankful, love your donors, but reflecting impact to donors of all levels. And you mentioned that a couple of times already. What interesting ways do you do that, especially for your donors who are not your $1 million, your large donors?
Once you've got somebody on board, it really is giving feedback in showing impact. So you can do your clever mailing pack, which has got your glitzy headline, and it's all clever, and you get people on board. But people want more than that. We look at people. People have a portfolio, a bit like have a portfolio of investments or whatever. People have an portfolio of charities, and you want to get in that core. You want to be ones that they they really value and they really trust. And one of the things that we found, we've done this for a whole range of different causes, is one of the most successful ways to engage people is not just have a constant series of appeals. Give us money, give us money, give us money. But once somebody's engaged and they've been thanked, you send them an appeal packaged in a feedback. So you would say, look what your gift of $100 achieved. This is what we did with it. However, this is where we're going next. If you could give us another $100 or $50 or $200, whatever your strategy is, we can then achieve this. And because we're writing about the donor, we're telling them that they've made a good decision. We're showing them the impact rather than giving them this clever advertising-led headline. We're much more likely to engage them. Everyone wants to know about what have I achieved with my money. And what we'll tend to find is we get a much higher level of giving from that second pack than we might do from the glitzy sort of like branded appeals. There was one very small organization we worked for. They worked, I can never say the actual real word. It's something like schizomycosis, river blindness, which is a disease, and it was an organization, a medical charity, treating that condition. Our first appeal to their file generated, and it was only a few thousand people, it generated £200,000, and they were very pleased with that. But the second appeal we did about 6 months later, rather than just saying, look, this is what we can do with your money, we showed them the impact and we gave them an opportunity to give. That same file that gave 200,000 gave 300,000 to that second appeal. And it's that approach that we follow. Feedback, show people what they've done, connect this appeal with the previous. It's like newsletters. When we're producing newsletters, when we have a newsletter, we always try and have 2 or 3 stories, but they are directed from the previous 2 or 3 appeals. So we'll have an article. Do you remember the veterinary services we did in Mauritania? And do you remember the medical training we did for donkeys in Nairobi? And we'll feature those. And often when we're doing this, we'll give on the donation form, where would you like your money to go? Indicate which one of these 3 projects that you would like your gift to go to. And 90% of people will say, you choose. You decide where you want the money, the money to go to. And I think,
but you give them a choice, right? Which is the critical part.
Yeah, you give them the choice, but they say you choose. And when you speak to these donors in research, they say, look, you're the experts. All we see is these packs, and what you're doing. What we want you to do is you spend the money where you feel it's most needed, and that's what comes from trust. If you get your trust right, that's what flies.
That's so interesting. So, and I know we were slated to talk about where to get the ideas, and maybe this was kind of more on the, that glitzy ad side of things, but I'm actually more interested in hearing from you, Mark, how you come up with these. It feels almost like a conversational approach, right? And why you think charities have trouble with it. A lot of what I see is just one-offs.
Yeah.
Do this, and then 5 months later do that, and and it's all at appeals.
Oh, it constantly is. And one of the biggest problems that you have is it's you'll have charities, you'll have non-profits, and they will jump from creative to creative, and they always want something different, and you lose traction because it's another idea, it's a completely different topic. And often, one of the questions I ask when I interview is why do people give? And often I've got fundraisers, client-side fundraisers, client-side fundraisers, and people say, oh, they give because they feel guilty, or they want to, hear a story or something like that. But the fact is, there's a set of need states that donors have. And we first identified these, I don't know, about 15 years ago. And these 4 need states are what we use to build our appeals. And one of them is, what's the problem you want to solve? That's the no-brainer. How can you give people, secondly, how can you give people an opportunity to tackle that sense of helplessness that they have, you know, particularly like, you know, the refugee crisis we've seen recently, massive outpouring of giving because people want to do something. They don't want to see those upsetting images. 3, personal development. You know, I want to feel that I'm a good person, but I want others to see it too. You know, we were doing some analysis of a pack we did the other day for one charity, and we were looking at recruitment ROI, cold recruitment ROI, and same pack, same offer, same information. One pack had a badge in, the other pack didn't have the badge. So one had a badge that you could wear to show off what you've done, the other didn't. The pack without a badge, recruitment ROI 0.7 to 1. So every dollar we spent, we brought in 70 cents. The other pack, 2.2. Every dollar we spent, we brought in $2.2. Cold recruitment. It's not unusual at the moment. Our press advertising, we have national press in the UK, and you know, particularly around Ukraine and work like that, generating 9 or 10 to 1 returns. Cold recruitment. And finally, rewarding, that point that I mentioned earlier on, that reward, that entertainment, that buzz. And it's those 4 things rather packaged together that work very well. Like for example, when we do our alumni university fundraising, the core need normally for the UK is scholarships. Young people can't afford to take up a place without some form of help. And universities do that, more and more need. We turned that around, not by writing more about the young people that needed help, by writing about the time when you were at the university. So if you were at the university in the 1960s, we sent you pictures of the bands that were playing. We sent you pictures of the Rolling Stones that were playing in your university. There's lots of bands playing UK universities. We'd send you costs, how much things cost in the shop. We'd send you front covers of the university magazine from your first term when you were at university. For one organisation, they had one of the founders of the university is a chap called Jeremy Bentham. He was one of the early thought leaders. I can't remember what it was, about 1780 or something along those lines. When he died, he gave his body to the university for medical science, and they cut his head off, and they mummified his head according to the rules laid down, or the directions laid down in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which teaches you how to mummify. So this guy, Jeremy Bentham, used to sit there, silver platter on his lap in his clothes, with a wax head, but his real head looking like one of the pharaohs, just sitting there staring. Go online and you can see these things. And in about the 1950s, this head was stolen by a university that used to compete. It was UCL, University College London, and King's College London. And King's College came in, stole the head and held it for ransom. And I can't remember what it was. It was £50 or something. So those paper lanterns that you sometimes find, I think you might call them Chinese lanterns in the US, but paper lanterns. We had Jeremy Bentham's head printed on one of these. Obviously, we could send it flat. So we popped it in, into an appeal and said, would you pay to get Jeremy Bentham's head back? So years ago, we had to pay £50. Give us that £50. Absolutely flew as an idea because we connected, we rewarded people. We gave them that sense of, we know who you are. And that was the pack that got featured in the New York Times as one of somebody's favorite ever mailing packs. So it's a whole host of things, looking at different ways we can make you feel, yes, this organization knows me. It's engaging with me. It's talking about things that I'm interested in. That's broadly the approach.
That's amazing. So I invite everybody. This was not planned, but if you want a mummified head, please contact Mark Phillips here on LinkedIn. He'll do his best to not reply to your messages. But if you have any other questions, I'm sure he'll be happy to connect with you.
Yeah, if you look for it's University College, UCL, and you write Jeremy Bentham head, you'll see it. It's very gruesome. It really does look like, if any of you have seen any of those old mummy movies, it really does look like one of those. Glass eyes, jaggy teeth.
Well, it's a good thing it's the evening over there in the UK, Mark. So this kind of connects very well because you've showed a prodigious display of creativity that you and your teams, put forth for your clients. I know you shared an idea with us at the conference, and for anybody who's here listening, that's the Donor Participation Conference. The last session is this Friday, so feel free to check us out. I'll put the link in there. But Mark, tell us about your idea and how you look at the past to tease out the future.
Yeah, we tend to think in terms of idea generation. Lots of people look at idea generation as a lateral process in effect. We look for inspiration. Where do we get our inspiration from? And often, we look around us. In effect, we copy, or we repurpose. I think it's Steve Jobs, isn't it, who I can't remember what his exact quote was, but we don't copy, we steal, or something he said. In terms of idea generation, so we can look around us. What I do is I look backwards as well. I'm not arrogant enough to think that us sitting here in the 21st century are the greatest minds that have ever been around. There's been other pretty bright people in the past, like Mr. Jeremy Bentham. So I look on the archives. I go on eBay, I go in newspaper archives. I just look for old stuff, see what I can find. And if you know where to look, you can find loads of old charity newsletters going back to the 19th century. You can find loads of press ads. You can even find mailing packs. I've got Dr. Bernardo's, a children's home in the UK. I've got some of their mailing packs going back to the late 19th century. But you find these ideas, and so often the things that people are doing are exactly the same now. I've got some press appeals that were run by a cancer charity in the 1930s saying, a cure for cancer is just around the corner. Exactly what people say now. And this is why old people don't believe that there is going to be a cure for cancer, because they've heard it so often. It's only young people coming up with creative ideas who actually say, let's say there's a cure around the corner and people are going to respond. It doesn't work like that. So I look backwards as well. And so I might find ideas. When we were developing our UNHCR Ukraine fundraising ads, it was all based on some Oxfam, an overseas development charity, ads that were written in the late 1960s and early 70s. And we had this concept we came up with of considered uncertainty. And do you remember when the invasion first started? We didn't know what was happening. It's a bit like when COVID hit. We didn't know what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. But this idea of considered uncertainty is a way to manage that. So what we said within our appeals is, we don't know what's happening. Again, we were honest, but we will tell you how we are going to approach this. So we shared our ideas. And this is exactly what Oxfam did in the late 1960s. Worked very well then. We applied it, works very well now. So you don't always need to know everything. As long as you're honest and transparent, people recognize that. So we look back in time. And, I have a blog called it's queerideas.co.uk. And I share lots of all the things that I find there. So I'll find, you can see books behind me, and you'll see, old charity fundraising books going back, some maybe almost up to 100 years. I'll share those. So I share those things on my blog, but I also have a Pinterest board. And if you search Mark Phillips on old charity ads on Pinterest, you will find somewhere in the region of 1,050 press ads that different charities have used going back to the 18th century. And, you know, one of the things you realize when you look at this is, you know, so many little ideas that people use. Ads in the 19th century, all the donors would have their names on there. You know, so you'd have a press ad. These are all people who've given us. Will you join us? That works today. You know, there's nothing new in fundraising. And if you can find these ideas, why not use them? Really.
Wonderful. This is amazing, Mark. Thank you for sharing. Did I get your the name of your blog correctly on the screen?
queerideas.co.uk. Yep, and the Pinterest board, which is old charity ads. If you just search that on Google, you should find it. You can write my name next to it, Mark Phillips, and you will see over 1,000 ads for a whole range of different causes: universities, overseas development charities, medical charities, welfare, religious organizations, anti-racism is covered off there. There are so many different approaches that people have used over the years, and you know, bring those ideas up to date. If you're stuck for a headline, there's 1,000 headlines there. You know, go and search, and they're all free.
Wonderful. So it turns into kind of having the wisdom and the criteria to choose which one, right, out of that wealth, but at least you have a pool there that seems pretty amazing.
And if you look at the ads, look at the ads from the early 20th century, First World War, they're the best ads. When there's a real crisis, that's when, you know, that's when fundraisers really work well. The early Save the Children ads are fantastic. Full page ads, amazing work around at the end of the First World War. And obviously there was a pandemic then as well. Obviously we had the flu pandemic, which was party to ending the First World War. So you can, that's it. There you go. Well done.
There we go. I found it.
Yeah, just scroll down there, and you'll just see, you know,
nobody needs. Okay, you're signed out. Okay, folks.
Okay.
Ignore oh my goodness, this is quite something, huh?
Yeah, and as I say, there's some US ads there. The majority of them are British. But there are some US ads there. There's some old Save the Children, US Save the Children ads there. But if you just scroll down, there's copy you can take. You can just steal. There's legacy ads, you know, monthly giving ads, a whole range of different courses. And as you go down, you can see the dates, and it gives you the dates that you've got there. There's campaigning ads. There's the Save the Children ad on the left-hand side. Yeah, that's a good ad. That one is. That Bernardo's ad in the middle has got the names of people who've given on it and how much they've given. So yeah, there's tons there. But as I say, 1,040 odd of ads there. So go on, knock yourself out, enjoy it,
folks. Copy Mark, copy his database. Thank you, Mark. So this makes me think of something, which is a lot of what we're seeing in these ads seems to, in a way, come from a time where newspapers and mass communication were a very good way to get in touch with people. Increasingly, it seems like they're not so good. You know, we have newspapers are, you know, less circulation. People trust less what they read in a format like this. And you've mentioned some of these approaches that you use to try to overcome this. You know, let the donor decide, make it more like a conversation over several pieces. So that, I think, ties into my next question for you is, like, where are we heading next, knowing that there's nothing new under the sun and humans will be humans, but like, how do you see this evolving going forward? Is social media a piece of it? Is engagement in other ways a piece of it? What are you seeing in your crystal ball?
It's the key thing is like press still works. You're absolutely right. You know, we have a national press here, and some publications are shrinking, some are fine. Magazines seem to be doing okay. You know, lots of people like magazines, but yeah, more and more digital. So we find a lot of our response is digital. So we'll run press ads At least 30% will normally be online.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to look at what we deliver. Now, we actually don't do much digital building of digital stuff anymore. We won loads of awards for our digital stuff for a number of years, but then through some horrific story, we ended up losing our main digital people. But the key thing that we found is it's very much those same rules that work digitally. So it's not, people talk about making things quick, but it's not making it quick, it's making it enjoyable. So what we would be looking to do on our landing page, it wouldn't just be come to our landing page, give us your name, give us your money. We would give you lots of reasons to give. So, we would use, like on a press ad or a pack, we know long copy wins, because someone who's interested in your work wants to read more about it. So we would use long copy landing pages that were specific to the work. We would give video, if to make it possible. And what we would try to do is, once we got people engaged, where possible, we would give them new URLs, new sites that they could go to where they could get feedback and they could chat with other donors about it. We developed
amazing.
We had a product called Animal Protector that was set up for World Animal Protection. It used to be called Whisper. We developed a product for them, and what we did is, again, we just gave you feedback. We showed you how your money made a difference, and if you signed up, to try and get people to sign up, we gave you some of those freebies. We gave you key rings, or little travel passes where you can put your, I don't know if it's different in the US, but in the UK, you used to have a little pass to use trains and things like that. And we let you choose which animal you wanted. So you could have a bear on there, or you could have a tiger or a dog or something like that. 70% of people chose bears. That's a clue. They love bears. They want to know about bears. Again, it's giving people that choice. But we gave people feedback. You can come in, see how your money's made a difference, and you can chat about it. And what we found, as ever, is you have a great big segment of people who give, but on the middle, the people who really care, they were coming back to that page every day, maybe twice a day. We didn't have a proper forum on there where people could chat so much. It was much more put comments, but people were discussing things on the comments. And when we ended up finding that you had about 4% of people were really, really engaged, and then we had about 20% of people who were semi-engaged and would come back once a week or once a month. And then others, they'd come in and they'd go. But we knew the group of people who wanted more, and get together, which you recommended.
You bought it.
Yeah, whenever I get a good recommendation, and there's a lovely page in here, which I think I tweeted. I think it's might be chapter 6 within here, which is focus on the people who keep showing up.
There you go.
And that's there you go. If you can read that, focus on the people who pay attention to the people who keep showing up. That's what it's about. That's one of the key things that you can do with digital, is you can find those people, particularly if you've got some sort of like registration scheme where they can come on board and engage, and they're there, and you've got constant offers. Do you want to hear about this? Do you want to hear about that? You're making your site, it's an old term. We used to use it years ago. You're making it sticky, but yeah. It worked then. It works now, and you provide that, that level of information. Another website that we set up called Lend with Care. It's microfinance. Have a look at it. And if you want to fund entrepreneurs in the developing world, you can go to that site. You can choose, entrepreneurs in need of help. Some people might, be farmers. You might have hairdressers. mobile phone repair people you've got there, you'll have cooks, chefs, men and women doing, loads of great business ideas, but they just need an investment.
Mm-hmm.
And so we feature on that. And again, one of the things that we know that keeps people sticky is feeding back, showing them how the business is going, what's what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so the key thing for me, in summary, I've rambled for too long, is that point of focus. Remember, there's a small group of people who really care about your work, and it's focusing on delivering the best experience for them, because that's where most of your money will come from. It's a Pareto experience that we're dealing with things. And if you look at your giving as long term, and for us, what we really are focusing on is legacy, bequest giving, people end of life gifts. They're the ones who are going to be that are going to be supporting you. So it's long copy. It's more information for those people who need it. It's giving them the chance to change something they care about, and it's giving them feedback. All what digital does so well is it allows instant access. So when you've got that buzz, I'm interested, I want to know.
Exactly.
You give. Now, we did some research amongst mid-level donors in the US back just after the election, when Trump got in. And one of the things that we found when we spoke to them, and this was about 2 weeks after the election, we did this research, and people said, when Trump got in, I felt helpless. I went online and I gave. I went online to give, and I was giving to a whole host of different organizations they felt were under threat. So ACLU, for example, they were giving to. They were giving to different
social justice.
Social justice.
I don't remember.
But
later,
also protection of the natural world. Is it Sierra Club? Sierra Club.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yep. And they were giving to that. And so people were giving because they thought that, big oil was going to be allowed just to go and dig wherever they want. And they just gave and gave. And that's that point when somebody comes on and gives angrily, or to try and get that level of control back that they feel that they might have lost. That's somebody who's got a lot of passion about a project. And that's when you need to feed back. And don't send the same thank you. Do not have automated thank yous that you just fire and forget. The best thing that you can do with a digital donor is send them hard copy thank yous, whether it's just a card that you buy from your local store. Thanks very much for your gift, but send them real thank yous. They know that all that automated donation thank you it's
discounted. Exactly. It's like a receipt. Doesn't count.
Yeah, it's not even touch the side. They want to think somebody has seen what they've done.
Well, and the more multi-channel, I see this in databases, the more different channels somebody interacts with you, the more likely they are to stay on, to give more, etc. No?
Yeah, and if you're clever enough to to really engage with people on social media, and obviously, Facebook, giving challenges on Facebook are are going pretty well at the moment. But again, it's keeping those people on board. You'll have a core of people who will really be committed. Loads of their friends are only going to give because it's a birthday or whatever, but don't ignore that core. My daughter did a race for a fundraising race for a local charity this weekend. I went online and shared her picture, and I said to my followers, would anyone like to help her? And a few did. Some nice people. Steve McLaughlin gave money. John Lepp, probably know these people. Some British fundraisers as well gave. But I tagged the charity name. They didn't even heart it. They didn't even RT it. They didn't even say thank you. And that's crazy. It's crazy because if all you need to do is show that person. Remember those 4 need states. There's a problem. I want to feel less helpless, but I also want to feel valued. I on my Twitter feed.
Feel seen, right?
Yeah, I have that thing on the top of my Twitter feed. It's from a book. I don't know if the book.
Oh, Designs of Fundraising.
Yeah.
I have it here too. It's somewhere in here.
And it's that first chapter. We're both looking away from the screen, wondering where we put it.
We're all looking for books, folks. If you're at home, look for a book too, and chat us about it.
Yeah, everyone turn around. I really don't know where it is. It's orangey, I think. I can't find it. It doesn't matter. But there's a line in there. Why people give is because they want to be sought, is one line. And then the next line is everybody wants to be a worthwhile member of a worthwhile group. And that goes back to the community idea.
That's so powerful. Mark, I hope, I pray to the world that you don't give up on digital. You have a brilliant mind and concept. And I always feel frustrated by how that kind of very sophisticated, worthwhile human approach is used in very small pockets in the nonprofit world, and then everybody else just has a PayPal form, some dingy form from a vendor that's absolutely horrible. Even Wikipedia, they are pretty sophisticated in their approach, and I've tried to get them to share. And if anybody here knows somebody at Wikipedia, please contact them. We want to learn. So anyhow, please keep contributing.
But don't forget, the thing that Wikipedia do is they're there constantly. They're there constantly. So every time you go on, you get that opportunity to give, but you don't care because it's Wikipedia. You're getting it for nothing. But it's that it is that element. But it's how you package your ask. We did an online ask for a medical charity. It's Parkinson's disease. So. Is it? I think you might have a different name for it in. No, only you don't. Michael J. Fox Foundation would be your equivalent of Parkinson's disease. And one of the things they found is in their research there was a tiny little worm. I think they're a nematode. I think they're called. But we have something like about 260 cells in our body, or genes in our body, that is exactly the same as this tiny little nematode. And so that's one of the areas that the researchers work on, these microscopic worms. And so one of the things that we did was when we asked people to give, we asked people to sponsor a worm. And these worms, we gave them names, and you could get a little cuddly toy worm if you gave extra. And that was fantastic. That ran really well. That ran well for about 5 or 6 years before, it's a very small community.
Well, Mark, I have to say, if you have a chat room or a forum to discuss that worm, I'll be in it tonight.
Yeah, we have that. Sponsor a worm. It was called Dave. The worm was called Dave. But it's just how you package your ask. Just, again, make it enjoyable. Don't necessarily make it easy. Make it enjoyable.
Okay, wonderful. Well, it's been absolutely fantastic to speak with you. Let me see if there are any last items here on our list. But if anybody that's listening today has a question, please do feel free to ask it. Do you agree with Mark's statement? Does long copy win? I'd love to.
I think we've lost them all. I've bored them all. They've all gone. Steve's gone. Sanya's gone. Anne, they've all gone.
Oh my goodness! I see 16 people here on my end, but
okay, you've got 16. That's good.
Okay, look, Ben. Thank you, Ben.
Oh, well, no, we've got a question. We've got a question from Ben. Yeah.
Let's put you on the screen, Ben. Ben is a fantastic professional, and I follow him here on LinkedIn. So you mentioned long copy wins for those who care about the nonprofit. How is the strategy adjusted when doing digital acquisition solicitations for those who are not connected to the nonprofit? Or do you not speak to those?
No. Of course, you're doing that. But the focus is really how are you going to? Why is that person going to care about something that has got nothing to do with them? That's our fundamental. So, the easiest stuff really is looking at approaches that summarize, a very simple cost benefit analysis. So we might have a very simple headline that we might use. So it might be, an old ad that we did ages ago, picture of a young boy and the line, do you need $1 as much as he does? And suddenly it makes you think, so it's a very small amount of money, should I give? So you'll be looking at that very simple cost analysis, cost benefit analysis. That's what we tend to use. But other ways that we do it is we work on two-step. So trying to find those people who actually care about your work. So we would do survey-based, for example. It works particularly if you're working with some sort of alumni base. So we're working with a children's organization at the moment, and we're asking people if they were part of that children's organization, what did they enjoy most about it? For alumni donors, we would say, what's your abiding memory of studying at this university? So we're asking them to do one thing rather than just asking, but when we've got them over the threshold, that's when we can start working on finding out the reasons why they would want to give to us. Really, that's the key point, because not everyone's reason is exactly the same. Hello, Sean. How are you? Good. We've got a Brit on here as well.
Thank you for your support as always. Of course, I imagine you're connected with Mark. Feel free to check out the donor participation project. That's so interesting. I think, Mark, we even have more things to discuss, but we're going to leave those for next time. I love your approach to surveys that you just shared, both as an information gathering tool, but also as a way to prompt feelings and recollections and identity.
Yeah, and it's how you deliver it. One of the most successful ways we delivered a survey was literally a Post-it stuck on a donation form. Okay, so a Post-it stands out on a donation form. That's what Post-its are designed for. They're pink or they're yellow or they're green. So you get your donation form, it's got a Post-it on it. You immediately look on it and there's a little arrow. Share this, share your thought, share your memory on the Post-it. So you've got that. And then what do you do digitally? You stick them on the wall and you start sharing them on Facebook, or you start sharing them on on LinkedIn, or you share them on your own website. So it's just thinking creatively. So it doesn't have to be a form. It can be as simple as a Post-it on a donation form. And yes, you're absolutely right, Trudy. We fund Sophie, and absolutely great. And you'll see some of our stuff on Sophie, but we don't put as much on as we should do.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mark Phillips from Blue Frog, and for sharing those resources with the sector, the old charity ads, for coming today to share your wisdom. Any parting words for everybody here?
Again, remember that people give. This is my standard stuff. People give because they have their own set of needs. Everyone had need states. Those 4 key need states. Always try and think about your appeal in terms of how are you answering those? How are you giving people a chance to solve a problem? How are you empowering them, thinking that they are, combating that sense of helplessness? How are you allowing them to feel better about themselves or show off? We all like to show off. And finally, what's your reward? What's the entertainment you've got there? They're the 4 things. If you think about your appeal like that, rather than simple problem solution, then you're going to get that richer stuff, because not everyone gives to solve a problem. People often give because of what it says about them, or there are those 4 key areas. Play about with those 4 areas. Write them down. Again, you'll find it in my blog, Donor Needs, Queer Ideas, and you'll find them and have a go. So next time you look at an appeal, look at which ones you think you're covering off, and look what you can add. And the easiest thing to add is a badge. Add a badge or a bookmark, and give people something they can write on. Bounce backs still.
A piece of origami. Put an origami in your letter.
Piece of origami, absolutely fabulous. Do one of those little crane things, and again. Take those ideas and you can apply them digitally as well. But long copy, not tiny headlines. More copy, good landing pages, decent thank yous.
Thank you. This was the cheapest masterclass we ever got. Mark Phillips, the more things change, the more they remain the same. Thanks,
Absolutely.
everybody. Have a great one.
Take care.